All right.
It's okay. Hey,
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Self-Love Society. My name is Nkiru, the Love Guru.
And my name is Tony Gillen, licensed professional counselor.
Yes, accolades.
Official.
That's right. That's right. Official tissue. You better respect it. Okay. So this is a Self-Love Society. We are a brand new podcast, and today we're going to let you know a little bit about who we are, what we're doing, and why you should stay around and listen. Tony, do you want to give your perspective of what this podcast is, your POV?
Yeah, sure. So this podcast is two individuals who are trying to heal and connect the community with each other for self-love, for self-preservation, and just overall happiness. And our goal every week is going to be to try to add some substance into our communities and hopefully give you all some new tools on how you can live your life more effectively.
Yes. Okay, so the first thing, well, I'll give you my point of view of what it is. I guess I need to do that before we just move on.
Support Black
I
women.
I feel that it is important. A lot of times, well, this is my perspective.
Yes.
I feel that therapy is often overlooked in the Black community, and sometimes we, for maybe stereotypical reasons or just not knowing where or who to start, we neglect going to a therapist or sitting down and really working through issues, talking through things in order to come to some sort of long-lasting resolution. I felt that creating this podcast with my very dear friend, we are old high school classmates.
Yes.
This is my homie. But I felt like doing this with another Black man would give an open perspective of issues that we all face in the Black community, as well as a male and female perspective on our visions of what that is, because a lot of times we perceive that there are issues and we perceive that it's one way, but we're only looking from the lens that we have. So to be able to have another person to work through those things and have a healthy dialogue would also provide healing for both of us, because we doing this thing too, this for us too, but also healing for you guys. So this is a two birds and one stone type situation. It provides healings for both of us, but also healing for our listeners.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with everything you just said.
Yay. Agreements. We ain't gonna always agree though, y'all.
No, we not.
We not. And that's good too. That's fine. We shouldn't always agree. But we're gonna start with our very first segment. We're gonna start our podcast by checking in on one another, because I feel that that's important. So, Tony, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic these days, and not like this, this fake surface
fine.
level of You know how you ask somebody, "Hey, how you doing?" They say, "Oh, I'm fine," when they didn't even take a thought, they didn't even think about it. No, I'm really at this place right now in my life. I'm very happy. I'm very full of joy and gratitude for just this place that I'm in, the people that I'm around, the places that I'm going in so many different areas of my life. It's just, if I had to just put a word to it, it's just happy.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. What about you? How you doing?
I am doing okay.
Okay.
Not happy, not great. Okay. So, this week, I had a catastrophic disaster in my house where the cabinets, all of my kitchen cabinets, fell down in the middle of in the morning, 4 a.m. and just destroyed my kitchen. And I actually have to go today to get that repaired. But yeah, so like sometimes when it's like big things, I have like a little bit of until I can at least start to see the resolution happening. You know what I mean? At least start to see it moving forward. I have a sense of, oh my God, like stop one thing, it's another
Yeah.
type thing. So, and I am a big cooker. I'm a person to where I like to be in my kitchen. I like to have my coffee, and I'm a vegetarian, make my food and stuff like that. And to not have that for a whole week, it's like I'm over it. I'm over it.
Luckily, you weren't in the kitchen when all this.
Man, that's the thing. Like, I always try to like look at the bright side of things because there's always something positive you can pull out of any situation. I am a habitual on the bright side type person. You know what I mean? So that was the one thing that I took away from it. That and the fact that I have brothers. All three of my brothers are in the construction field. So I not only am I glad that I wasn't injured or my little doggies weren't injured, but that I have brothers that are willing to come and fix it for me for no money. You know what I mean? Like, you can't even beat that. You know what I mean? So
not at all. That's great that you had that.
Man,
you had those resources.
That is a bright side. You know what I mean? So while it's a minor inconvenience, I always try to pull out, well, it could be worse. I could be that could have happened to me, and I could have known no one, and I would have had to last thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of repair.
So when I get a house and my cabinets fall, I know who to call.
Yeah, my brothers.
Yeah.
Not me.
Well, I don't know. First.
Well, you can call me, and then I'm going to call them because, baby, I don't know how to put no cabinets up. I was just looking at it like.
Oh, dishes everywhere.
Oh, my. Listen, you know I don't have kids, so everything is glass. Ooh. Glass, porcelain. My wine glasses, my coffee mugs. I was like, my little porcelain. I was really happy because my grandmother who passed away, her porcelain, I had some porcelain dishes from her that I use for like big functions, like Thanksgiving, things of that nature. And I pull them out, and I was just like, I just knew it was destroyed. I was just like, oh God, like, what am I gonna do with this? Like, you can't replace that. Like, you cannot replace that. I don't care. You bring me something that is the same. You cannot. She's gone. Like, you can't replace that. And thank God, nothing of hers was broken. I was like, see?
She had her hands around.
See?
Like,
she was like, not this.
These ain't breaking.
She was like, not this
right,
now.
Not this one. Here.
Okay.
She set that one down nicely.
So I'm super glad about that. I'm super happy about that.
That's good. That's good.
So that's how I'm doing. But otherwise, I'm grateful that, like I was saying, that I have somebody that can repair it, and that I didn't get injured. But I was mildly irritated and a little like,
yeah.
Because it's just, it's like having a car, and the car just breaks down and just like.
You know, it's like, I feel like that ties together with what I was saying with just being like happy. Because I feel like when there are situations in our lives, we have these small moments where it can either go bad or it could go really well. And it's the combination of those moments that tell the story of the triumph, because it always ends out going well. Right? Yeah. The ending is always good for the most part.
Absolutely.
You know? But in the midst of that, there's always going to be some areas where maybe there's some battles that you lost and some battles that you won. Yeah. But at the end, you're going to win. That's awesome. That's a wonderful perspective. I guess it's like the optimism pledge. Huh?
Yes, that's a wonderful, wonderful perspective to have. Is that as long as you know, like one of my favorite artists, Big Crit, he always says that you got to play until the end. The only difference between a winner and a loser is a winner plays until they win.
Hold on, say that one more time.
You have to play it to the end.
All right, Pastor.
The only difference between a winner and a loser is a winner plays until they win.
Okay.
So as long as you don't give up, you're gonna always win.
There you go. Huh. Okay.
Yeah, that's like KRIT, Big Crit.
Like
so, yeah.
Hopefully we have on the show one day.
Listen. You go.
Hey, we gonna speak it to existence.
I'm gonna be like, listen, let's speak it to existence because I'm here. I am. I'm be. You gonna be like, Nkiru? No. I'll be like, so Crit.
Yeah.
But so that's how I'm doing. Okay. We can move on.
So, as everyone knows, to move on to our next topic. The election is coming up on Tuesday. I'd say it's going to be the most extravagant day of all time.
Most polarizing day
It's going to
ever.
be a day where you need to get home and just order some pizza. And
Get
you need to
your
have
mind.
I mean, COVID safe, y'all. But you're gonna have to have like a little get together where everyone's gonna be crowded around the TV, and this is gonna be something you don't want to miss because I just feel like something is going to happen
Absolutely.
that there's a group of people who are not going to be happy.
One
like
side,
there's
one
gonna
way
be-
or another. It's no way around that.
It's like like you said, it's a
Yeah.
polarizing day because
Yes.
like there are a group of people who are honestly against Donald Trump and rightfully so. Then there's a group of people who are against Joe Biden. You know, the other
For other reasons.
yeah, for other reasons. And so it's like no one's going to be really happy
Nope.
on Tuesday, which I don't know if that's different than any other year.
But I feel like more so in other years, it's not, there's less emotions wrapped around it and more so sadness that your party didn't win or your person didn't win. Where this one, in both cases, everyone's emotions are so ingrained in this election. It's crazy and it's everywhere. And I don't, and not only that, with COVID kicking off and everyone being at home and being able to do a little bit more research in life and pay attention to a lot more things, it is everybody's an expert. You know what I mean? Everybody's got a point of view. Everybody is an expert, and it just becomes a thing because everybody feels like that they know that their way is right. And if they don't get their way, it's going to be a thing. And then there's other things that's tied to it. There is race that's tied to it. There is sexism that's tied to it. There is religion that is tied to it. There's all kinds of things that is tied to the election that in some way is a part of it, but not really. You know what I mean? It's like they've made it all, well, like there's been several statements of you're not black if you don't do this, or you're not black if you don't do that, or all black people should do this, or whatever the case may be, to where it's like, when did my blackness have to do with my vote? Or there's statements of, oh, you're not a woman if you don't do this, or if you're not a woman if you don't do that. And it's like, when did my womanness have to do with any of this? You know what I mean?
And then
or
who gives people a right to decide what a woman is or a black woman is or
it's
a
a guilt. It's terrible guilt. Even like Christians, like you'll hear, oh, well, you're not a Christian if you do this, or you're not, because you have a lot of conservatives who feel like you should go one way because Christianity is traditionally very conservative in nature when you look at the views. And so when you look at some of the things that are on the liberal side, they're like, oh, if you're a Christian, how could you go that way? If you're it's just like, let people vote.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. I'm so ready. I'm so ready for this to be over, but I'm so nervous at the same time.
Take it back to like the high school days when it was just like, just vote for who you want and everybody's still going to be happy at the end of the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Give it a week and it'll be over.
Yeah. But, you said something there just about like the black vote. And, I know that is a huge thing nowadays when we talk about like the empowerment of black people in this world, in this society that we live in, United States. And we talk about what is best for us as a people. One of the things that always hear in like social media and just among friends is like you say, defining your blackness. What does it mean to be black, or who are we going to vote for? Right? And that's always a divisive issue it's a divisive question in general, but like among black people, I feel like there's a lot tied into it.
Yes.
In terms of who you are as a person. It's like, say for instance, you are a black person who wants to vote for Donald Trump. Then now everyone is looking at you and saying, okay, well, you're not black, or you're Uncle Tom, or
you don't like you don't care about the group. You know what I mean? Or you're discounting racism, or you're discounting sexism, or you're discounting the things that person may personally feel, or whatever the case may be. So that becomes a thing as well. I just want to dip into my first question and ask, why is it that the black vote is so important outside? And it's not for any, like, you don't hear about the Mexican vote or the Latino vote or the Jewish vote or anything of that nature. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that when we talk about like the black vote, I think why it's so important is because I feel like black culture in America is black people have such a huge influence over the culture here, and I feel like that is a reason why it's looked at as it's valued.
Yeah.
You know, I think that our influence in as consumers, I think our influence as culture pushers and change. You know, we influence a lot of change in this country, and so our vote is very, very important. However, I also feel like I don't know if all black people realize that.
I definitely don't think that we all do. I feel like a lot of times we don't talk about a lot of things, so it's hard to gauge where people are. It's hard to gauge where people's understanding is, and it's hard to gauge what we want as a collective because we don't discuss those things.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why, like, I think this may be one of your questions, or the whole Ice Cube and Lil Wayne thing is such a thing. You know what I mean? Because or even Kanye West. You know what I mean? It's such a thing because we don't talk about it. We're lumped together as a group, but we don't meet as a group. We only get together in tragic situations. Like to march, or the NAACP, or we gotta fight for this, right? Or fight for, like, we never get together and just be like, let's just get together and figure out what we want as a group, since we're being considered as a group, whether we want to be or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, well, first and foremost, let me just say this. I am not the most politically inclined person. I don't know much about politics. And that's something I aspire to change in my life.
And I wanted to ask you about that, actually.
Like, I don't, like, I kind of see what I see online, but I don't know who's like really pushing for what or things like that. I don't know as much as I should know. I
wanted to ask you about that. It's actually my second question. Do you think that is because of all the emotion that is tied to it, and it is emotionally draining to do all the... Do you think that's why you withdraw from knowing about that kind of stuff? Because it can be quite polarizing when you learn different things or get into different things or whatnot. Yeah. Do you think that has anything to do with it? Or
I think that it's multifaceted with me. I think first and foremost, I didn't really grow up in a family that really was teaching us about politics or really involved in politics and understanding. And so I never really learned the importance of it.
Okay.
I didn't really learn like about politics really until I got to high school. And then I started learning about, there's presidential elections and we got this candidate and this candidate and this is what they're doing. It's like, whoa, what is this? I think the first election that I was cognizant of was, I think it was George Bush and Al Gore. I remember that was the election where everyone at the high school, I think it was like our freshman year in high school, and I remember people were upset, and I was like, what is this? Like, what is this? Why is this important? That might have been the year where there was the Florida recount thing.
Was it that year?
I think that was the issue. It was like a Florida recount, maybe.
There's always an issue in Florida. Always.
I think that was the case. But like,
I foresee that happening in a few days. There's always an issue in Florida, Georgia. Always. The battleground states. Yeah. Always.
But, for me, like, I think also there's so much information out there about these candidates and what they stand for or what they've done in the past. And sometimes it can be overload of information. On top of, we have other things going on in our lives.
Yes.
I'm a father, and I'm also, working in my career, and I have my own personal issues. And so sometimes it's hard to make room for, let me sit down with all this stuff I'm dealing with, and let me just look at politics.
Let me tell you something. You said something that just touched me to my core. Okay? the word overload.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. Y'all is doing too much with this vote. We know we gonna vote. It ain't came yet. We gon' like that. To me, I'm a person to where that is too much for me. Okay. That would deter me. Like if somebody everywhere that I go and everything that I look at, it's like pushing it. Like I am a person to where I like to do things on my own. I think you're this way too, a little bit, but I could be wrong. But I don't like to be forced into things. Yeah. And if I feel like I'm being forced into things, I'm going to retreat from that. You know what I mean? I don't want to feel like I'm being pressured. Any social media thing I open, it's talking about vote. You drive down the street, it's signs everywhere talking about voting. You know what I mean? And it's like, yes, you want a great turnout. You want voters, but you don't have to. Listen, move on, people. You don't have to text me 3 times a day. I promise you don't.
Oh, man,
I'm not reasoning. You don't terrible. Listen. To move on, it's so many people. I just delete them. I can't even tell you all the people that
I don't even know how I got on the list in the first place.
I blame the voting polls because I know that I never signed up for any list to be. You got. It's ridiculous. You got the general election people that text me. You got the move on. You got the
people that just start random conversation with you. Like, who is this? Oh, this is about so and so. I'm a supporter here of Bernie Sanders. It's like, whoa,
stop calling me. Yes. It's like, and when you're super busy, like you were saying, like people assume that your inactivity means that you're not no, I'm aware of what I'm gonna do. I know what I'm gonna do. I don't need you to harass me.
You know what? I agree with you of the overload of constantly telling us to vote. I do, however, see the significance of it because there's a large portion of people who
please vote
who are very out of the loop when it comes to voting. Like,
yes.
There have been, like, when you look at like St. Louis City, there was a huge population of people who did not come out and vote, and I think was it the last midterm elections? I believe there was a large, and I don't know the statistic, and maybe somebody out there can correct me, but there was a huge proportion of residents of St. Louis City who didn't come out and vote, and for that, it can really cripple change.
It can.
So I can see the importance of like constantly drilling in us, say vote, November.
I see the importance on that level.
The first Tuesday of November.
Yes, I see the importance on that level. However, it's never done on that level. It's only done for the presidential election, which is very irritating to me because that election that you're referring to, there's the local elections are, in my opinion, the most important. So recently in St. Louis, there was an initiative on the ballot about changing the requirements for police officers to live in their community in order to police that community. Well, it passed. You can live anywhere in Missouri and work anywhere in Missouri. So now you can have people who come from Sikeston, Missouri, and come and work in St. Louis City. If you're having an issue already with police officers relating with their community and relating with the people, you're going to have an even bigger issue when you're having people coming from areas that is not as diverse as the city and policing in those areas. So initiatives like that and things like that, people need to be more knowledgeable about stuff like that and less worried about how, this president or that. It's important, but it's not that's one person. That's one person. You have so many representatives. You have judges that are getting appointed on seats. You have senators. You have all these individuals that make up the decisions to make the laws that affect your life on a day-to-day basis. And it's important that you're not letting someone just skate by every year. You know what I mean? Like Cori Bush just recently ousted Lacey Clay. Lacey Clay was there so long it didn't even make no daggone sense. I think he just took the job from his daddy. Like they just literally passed the job because he had the same name. It was like you're just there for tens and tens. Like I don't even know how long he was there. He was there since before I was born. You know what I mean? So it's just like for someone to sit in a position and know that no one's ever going to challenge you because people don't pay attention to local levels or local elections, it's sad because it prevents them from doing the best for their constituents. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this. 'Cause
Yes.
You had mentioned, you talked about, police brutality.
Yes.
And it brings up the issue of political issues.
Yes.
What is it that you think are... So I guess it's a two-part question. So the first one would be, do you feel like black people, we talk about the black vote, do you feel like black people need to come together when it comes to voting, regardless of whether it's a presidential election or a midterm or a city or county? And if so, are there certain issues that we should care about the most? What should be like our top three?
So I'm glad that you
if
did.
We're voting as a.
I'm glad that you put that together. So my answer to the first thing is, I only feel like that black people should come together and vote if we are coming together for a plan, a policy, a purpose. You see what I'm saying? If we have sat down and discussed as a black community, this is what we need this 4-year cycle in order to further us as a community to get better health care, financial freedom, better school systems, all these types of things, prison reform, to make sure that we're able to vote. There's no voter suppression and things of that nature. If we are coming together for a purpose, then yes, I believe that we should vote together as a group. But I feel like that's something that needs to be consistently done and not just done the few months before a presidential election. Now, some things that I think that are important that should be important things in order for us to vote together. One, our children. I feel that our future is everything. Our children is everything. So education, properly securing education, our historically black colleges and universities being funded fully without having to continue to ask for funding. I feel that that's very important because I am a HBCU graduate and I currently attend another HBCU.
Hey.
And it is difficult to go to an HBCU, especially because I've done a few semesters at a PWI. When you go to a PWI and you see how much funding is in those schools compared to what we have, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. It is. And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be such of a divide. It reminds me a lot of why we went to Rockwood to begin with. You know what I mean? To have a different opportunity to make sure that we had
Do you want to big up your HBCU that you?
Huh?
Do you want to big up your HBCU that you
I
went
do.
to?
I went to. Hey, Oakwood University, how you doing? Hey, Harris Stowe University, what's up? I have no problem with bigging up my HBCU. You went to PWI,
hey,
and you big up your PWIs.
I'm prideful of my PWI. I do not care. Missouri State University, stand up. We are the Bears. We coming, right?
And grad school,
University of Missouri, St. Louis.
There you go.
Hey, I don't mind PWI.
But
I had a great education.
But it's good because it's two different perspectives. Like, and we talk about that on another podcast. But we will. But I think that number one, our children, making sure that the schools that they attend are properly funded.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Elementary all the way up to collegiate level, properly funded schools that are majority for the black community. I feel like that needs to happen. That should be number one. Number two on the list, the wage disparity. Most people in our group, black in group, are on the lower end of the wage disparity. I feel like that's something that needs to happen, as well as in conjunction with that, a radical overhaul of loan suppression. You know what I mean? When you have people who go for entrepreneurship and things of that nature, you have a lot of hurdles for people who are African American or black, or people who are trying to open up business in predominantly African American or black neighborhoods to receiving a loan. I think that something needs to be done by that, because the redlining of it all, the discrimination of it all is
Yeah.
what is it's a whole nother hoop to jump over. After you're jumping over the hoop of education, now it's another hoop of trying to provide and create financial stability for yourself that you have to jump over.
Yeah.
I think that those two things are pivotal and should always be at the top of the list for the African American community, because this is our biggest plight, is our poverty. You know what I mean? A lot of our issues stem from our poverty. And thirdly, prison reform. I think that needs to happen.
Okay.
And also, given inmates who come out of prison, you know what I mean? So those, whether, I don't want to say felons, because everyone's not a felon who came out of prison, but those people who have come out of prison, who have already served their time, they don't have the right to vote. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have the right to choose or have a say in the society that they live in. I feel like that's something also that needs to be looked at, because a lot of us are unjustly imprisoned and things of that nature. So it's also suppressing our voting rights as well. I think those are the three top that need to
Those
be.
are the three. I agree. I think all of those are. Now, don't get me wrong. I think all of the political issues, there's something for us in each one that is very important that we should be really pushing for. I'm only just bringing up my three that I guess are more pressing for me. I would first definitely say healthcare.
Yes.
Mainly, especially when you talk about mental health, because I feel like as Black people, not having proper health care, proper access to mental health care I'm always about the three pillars of wellness. And for me, that's physical wellness, that's mental wellness, and that's spiritual wellness. And I feel like proper health care will allow us to be able to deal with all three of those in a good, a healthy setting.
Yes.
So that we can go out into the world and deal with, whatever we're dealing with from a healthy standpoint.
Right.
And so I think that's my biggest one. In probably, I'm a licensed professional counselor, so I'm all about mental health. I'm all about
Of
wellness.
course you are.
I also think that education is a huge thing for us. And you talk about like the achievement gap, and you talk about us being students in Rockwood. We were able to have access to certain resources that people from our neighborhoods, because we were bussed out from city. Our kids in our neighborhood didn't have the same resources that we would go to school every day and have.
Yep.
And you can see
just the ability not to walk through a metal detector.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah, I remember going back, because I went back and forth between Rockwood and St. Louis City, and I remember going into my school and there was a metal detector. I mean, there was a security guard that was frisking all of us. Like, it was like going into...
I don't even think we had a security guard at Rockwood, did we?
No, I mean, when I was in the city.
I'm just saying
we had a security guard, but
I didn't
you would
even know.
only see him if there was like a major issue. Like, they was doing like drug raid day.
I don't even remember. I don't even
to.
remember seeing a security guard. That's how.
He used to be like in the parking lot, like looking at people's cars and stuff.
Really?
But that's about as much as he really did.
But I think that's saying a lot. You know what I mean? For people who are constantly, it's in their face. You know what I mean? You literally walk. Like, I can't. You bringing that up, I can't even remember.
Yeah.
A security guard.
Security guard had a Mr. in middle school, Mr. Merriweather.
You knew his name too?
I remember his name. He used, because I remember I came to this school for the first time, and I had on this red jacket. I had this red windbreaker, and I thought I was fly. I was like, oh, I got this jacket on. I got my black jeans.
Fresh.
I had like some new Nikes or whatever. I was like, man, I'm about to be cool. He's like, son, don't come in here wearing all that red again. And I was like, what you mean? He's like, I done seen a little boy over here get shot because he had all that red on. You know how traumatizing that is for a middle school kid?
Are you serious?
Especially coming from,
Rockwood.
Now, I grew up in the city, so I knew a little bit of that stuff, but I'm just an innocent little kid. I'm just like, oh, I like this jacket, I like these shoes. I had no idea about that kind of stuff. And so he was a very huge part of just the school's everyday day to day stuff. You know, and so but that speaks to like when you got to go to school every day and you got to worry about your safety.
Right.
It's very hard to want to learn.
It's a whole hurdle.
Yeah,
It's
that's for the people that at least came from somewhat of a decent home. You got people who come from hell and was coming to school.
On top of that,
yeah. So yeah, education, and you see how huge that is for the achievement gap between black people and black children and other children of other groups.
Yes.
You know, even in Rockwood.
Yes.
Even in schools like Rockwood, there's a huge achievement gap. When I interned for my counseling internship, I just remember all of the schools, there was always an achievement gap.
Yep.
There was an achievement gap between, no matter what district you look at, there's always going to be a gap between its white students and its black students.
And I think like at Rockwood, one thing we're gonna talk about this one day too. One thing like a lot of people that you don't think about is like, I remember, because you know when we grew up, I'm gonna expose our age right here. But when we grew up, you know, that was when like the internet was just popping and everything. Yep. And I remember like my worst subject, I hated English. I hated it. I love to write, but I hated English because all the rules and everything. But I remember like there was classes that I didn't do as well in, just merely because I didn't have the resources to do the homework. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you don't even think about that. And I remember consciously knowing that I didn't have the resources, but I had so much pride that I didn't want to tell my teachers, I don't have a computer at home, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. I don't have any way to complete that assignment. So I would just, if I couldn't get it in while I was at school, then it's just not going to get done. I'll just try to make it up somewhere else. And, you know, like, I was always a kid to where I never wanted to make excuses I never wanted to make excuses about where I come from. I took the hand that I was dealt, and I wanted to make the best of the hand that I was dealt. Like playing a game of spades. You know what I mean? No. You don't know how to play spades.
Look.
Yeah, we finna fight.
No. Spades is a very traumatic game for me. I came from a family where spades was like life and death. That's
period. That's period in the black community.
I don't want to eat that kind of pressure.
But this is
I just want to have fun. Okay. Nobody want to play spades to have fun.
But here's the reality. This is the thing that I learned about games. And I'm actually writing about this in my book. Okay. But this is the thing that I learned about games. You learn so many life lessons about games. We're both football players, so you understand that notion of it. Okay. Do you play chess?
Somewhat.
Okay, but it's all moves and counter moves. The one thing that spades teaches you is that life will deal you a hand. You don't know how many hearts, clubs, spades, diamonds you're going to have in your hands. Hearts, things that you love, clubs, you know, all of this confusion, everything that's out there. Diamonds, monetary games, or spades, things that help you skip over, you know, the little shortcuts in life. Okay. You don't know how many of those you're going to get in your hand, but you still have to play the game. You can have a game where you only have one shortcut, one spade in your hand. You are still eligible to play. You can still play the game. So me understanding that all I have to do is make board. All I have to do is get here. You know what I mean? All I have to do is make it to here, make my minimum requirements of the day, and I can survive. You know what I mean? I think that it helped me mentally make it through a lot of things and try not to make excuses. Because a lot of times when you make excuses, you become a victim to life, because life is not always going to be fair, and it's already rigged against us for other reasons. Law reasons, but it's not.
At the end of the day, I don't play spades.
One day we gonna play spades.
I don't play spades with black folks.
No, one day you gonna play. I'm a black person.
Because black people take spades too serious.
We won't be on the same team.
No, we not. Because I'm not gonna be sitting here and be ridiculed, and then I'm be ready to fight because people trying to test my manhood because I don't know how to play spades. No, I'm not doing that. I will see y'all. I'll be on the outside. Hey, y'all need something to drink? Hey, I got some soda, some sweet tea in there. I'll go outside. You know, that's what I used to do when I was a kid. I'm like, oh, y'all playing spades? Oh, let me go play kickball. That was what I did. I played dominoes. I like that because that's kind of fun. The same vitriol didn't exist in dominoes that existed in spades.
That's true.
So I stay away from them type of games.
Well, that's fine.
But don't
So,
ask me to be your partner.
so healthcare, I won't because I take spades seriously.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'll see you later.
That's fine. So healthcare,
education.
education.
The other thing I wanted to add with the whole achievement gap part was when we talk about, I don't want people to think like, oh, because, we went to Rockwood or Parkway or any other predominantly white districts that meant that things were better for us, because a lot of times, one of the issues of why there is an achievement gap is because you don't have teachers who resemble the student population.
Very,
so
very, very true.
Shout
out to Coach G. He was my favorite.
Not Doctor, Mr. Oglesby.
Mr. Oglesby, but Coach G.
Those were the only two black
he was
educators that I remember in high school.
Yep.
And I just would imagine, like,
that's why I went to a HBCU,
Yeah. You think about
that's
like black kids
why.
coming from predominantly black communities, and then we get bused all the way out to these schools and these communities that we don't see anybody that looks like us. And sometimes for a lot of kids, that was a huge issue of why they couldn't keep going. They couldn't progress, because they didn't have anyone to support them out there. Now, I would say I was blessed because even though I didn't necessarily have people out in Rockwood that looked like me, there were people who filled in for that.
That's true.
A lot of my white allies, like Miss Bluer,
Rainey.
Miss Rainey.
Yeah. Rice.
Miss Rice.
Miss Rice was
It was so many teachers who who filled in the gaps to where it didn't feel like I was by myself anymore.
That's true. For me, I think it was super dope to have G and Oglesby there, to represent for the black community. But maybe you don't know this perspective. One of the main reasons why I went to a HBCU is because I never had a black female teacher until I went to an HBCU. Never. My first black teacher was Coach G. It was my first black teacher.
As a teacher.
Oh, let me tell you something. I took drafting just so I could have him as a teacher. Not because that was my desire, was to be educated by a black person and to see what that felt like and to know what that felt like. And being in his class, having Funky Freaky Fridays and all that, and it felt like Parliament. It felt like home. You know what I mean? It felt like an understanding that didn't have to be explained. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have much growing up. You know what I mean? I grew up, my mother did the best she could. So I didn't have much growing up. So to feel like I could be in a space to where if I needed to say something, I wasn't going to be judged or looked at like, oh, you're just an orphan child. Like, I didn't want that. I just wanted someone that's like, okay, well then do this. Okay, just give me something in the parameters of what I have that I can do. You know what I mean? Because I want to show that I am resilient and I can handle what is put in front of me. But I want to be able to vocalize, I want to write your essay. I don't have a pencil. But I don't want to tell you I don't have a pencil. Because you're going to think that I'm lazy or this or that or whatever. Or you're going to think something about my mama and then I'm going to have a problem with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like to have that safe space. And then, as a woman, growing up as a woman, to have women to educate you, whole nother level. I could go on and on about the female educators that look like me in my collegiate experience that just took me to a whole nother level. But that experience, you don't know you need it until you have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point, because I'm thinking like, I had great experiences, but I wonder how different things would have been had I been at a school where all my teachers looked like me.
Yes.
Like I had one black teacher in college, Dr. Tate, rest in heaven, rest his soul. He taught African American studies.
Oh, I bet you that was lit.
And it was a fun class. Everybody in Missouri State know Dr. Tate. You know, he was just he was a pastor.
Yeah.
He's
So
a
I got a
pastor.
couple of pastors as
Yeah.
teachers, and that's the other thing. Like, that's another thing. You know what I mean? Because religion is a big thing in our culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to be in class, and like I had classes where we prayed in the class. Like, it was just like,
I don't remember Dr.
This
Tate really
different.
bringing much in about religion, but I do remember just learning about all of these black figures that I didn't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did not know who Marcus Garvey was till I got to college. That was like, who is that? And I remember everyone looking at me like, you don't know who that is? I'm like, no, because I didn't learn
we didn't learn
about
that.
black history. We learned about the sexy black history, people like
The acceptable,
Dr. Martin Luther King,
the acceptable,
Rosa Parks,
Coretta Scott,
and Duke Ellington,
and Harriet Tubman.
We learned about the
mainstream,
the Avengers of black history, but we didn't learn about the street level ones. We didn't learn about and I can't remember his name, but talk about like his last name was like Toussaint.
From Haiti.
Yes, yeah. Like I didn't learn, and please forgive me for not remembering his name, but he was an integral part of the uprising of
absolutely
and the resilience of the Haitian people, against oppression. And so like I didn't learn about that stuff till I got to college.
It's
but,
true.
That kind of goes back to, like I said, education is
us
seeing ourselves in what we're learning.
Absolutely.
Can create more of a connection so that we can do better.
Yes.
Because if I'm reading about, if I'm, say for instance, U.S. history, I remember civil rights was like a small section of our history book, but if I'm reading history and I'm learning about all these people and I don't see myself and I don't see where I fit
don't
in,
care.
It's hard for me to really connect to it. So when the test comes,
I don't care.
Who is this person again? And so I feel like that feeds into why our achievement gap is so wide.
Absolutely.
In every school.
Absolutely.
It's not just a inner city black school. Like black kids are suffering at every school district.
That's true.
And so that's my other one. I would say my third one, and I kind of have like a tie because I feel like employment is a huge one because it gives us access to financial resources. I think that you're seeing an uprising in entrepreneurship in the black community, and trying to establish our own financial base. And so employment is needed because we need money.
Yeah.
But also
because we ain't getting no loan.
What also comes in is the police brutality of human rights, because if we're mentally well, we're educated, and we got money, people can still be killing us, and it's not gonna help us. It's so easy.
So many things.
Yeah, many things. We're being attacked on so many fronts that
it's a stress. It is a mental strain on any individual. It is a mental strain, and especially bad when you live in a demographic that does not honor you speaking about your problems. Yeah, I know. We gotta get close to it. Yeah, but we live in a demographic to where it's not cool to talk about. You don't talk about your business in the street. You know what I mean? Don't be telling them strange people what's going on at home. You know what I mean? Like, that is what we grew up with. So talking to a therapist is like, why would I do that?
Yeah, someone brought this up the other day. It was talking about how mental health, when you look at the foundations of psychology, it was an oppressive way. It was oppressive towards black people.
It was. Phrenology and things of that nature was all created to basically show that we were inferior. That was the whole purpose of it, which is why it's so important to understand that there is a whole different set of psychology that is focused on the black perspective and the black community as a whole.
By black psychologists.
And by black psychologists and psychiatrists.
That's a huge thing, because if you're lucky to get a black person to trust a medical professional in the mental health field, right? And then they're dealing with all this trauma that we've experienced, and they tell you something, and then you sit there and you give them the confidentiality agreements, and you talk about, well, if you say this type of stuff, then I have to report you.
Yeah,
it's like, so I really can't tell you my traumas from fear of something happening to me or my children.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me if I tell you about all of my traumas, I can have my children taken away from me?
Man, that's why people
And
just
so
don't.
it's very hard. And so when we send our kids to school, it's like, and I've had this conversation with my daughter and my kids at school. Look, don't tell them what we do in our house.
Man, but that's normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's normal. And then what happens is the psychologist is cut out, and the new psychologist becomes the pastor. You know what I mean? That's the only place you feel like you can go to and talk. But then there's a whole nother thing behind that.
Pastors and the church.
Let me tell you something. The church and that perspective and everything that you experience.
Pastor,
yeah, and everything you experience in life, there's not always a clear cut one way or another, because the pastor is obligated to their religion. You know what I mean? So it may not that may not be the perspective that you need always. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's always that at the end of the day. So
let me ask you this question. Mm-hmm. We talk about
let's let this be the last one.
Last one, okay. Uh-huh. So when we talk about like the black vote, because we're talking about voting, is it important for us to be? Is a black monolith? Is that needed when it comes to voting?
What do you mean?
So, when it comes to black people voting, should we be together or should we be individuals?
I told you, I feel until we come together, until we come together before the vote, I don't think we need to be together, because we can be together and go off the cliff.
True.
We could be steered in the wrong way. You know what I mean? Like, we can be, someone could appear that they are for the black people and shuck and jive for us just to get us to go one way. And they would feel like, oh, well, this person is the leader of the black people. And if he wields the power to control all the black people one way, then all I have to do is impress this one person instead of listening to the plights of the people, which is why I personally,
him or her out.
I personally agree with Ice Cube and what he is doing. Like how he is taking the time to come up with an agenda for what is important for black people. How he is taking the time to not just talk to one side, but talk to both sides and make it, listen, y'all the one want our vote. It's not for us to be loyal to anything. We're loyal to.
He did it without us even saying, "Hey, this is what we want." He said, "This is what I believe black people need."
Yep.
Let me try something.
But I feel
not people of color,
right? But I feel that what
black
he
people
did is important, and we need to create something in which we can do that on a consistent basis. And so it's not just Ice Cube's opinion of what black people needs. It is literally the black. If you want us to move as a group, we need to come together as a group and sit down and say, what do we need? Not who do we feel hates us more. I don't give a damn. Everybody hates us, in my opinion. We at the bottom of the barrel. Don't nobody like us. Other people of color don't like us. You know what I mean? Like, we gonna listen. I'm a black woman. Let me go into a hair salon. A hair store. Other people of color do not like us as well. So it's not even just a black-white situation. For real. Yeah. Let's just get all the way funky. It's not just black against white. And I want people to understand that fully. It is literally, if we're going to move as a group, we need to focus as a group. Nobody gets mad at the Asian people for Chinatown. Nobody gets mad at the Jewish people for coming together and having a Jewish community. And when they do, and when you want the Jewish people to vote, guess what? You got to come to that community and you have to bring them something that is beneficial to that community. We're the only community to where all we need is pretty words. All we need is for you to say that we matter. That's not enough. We can matter.
Put
and
hot
still
sauce in your purse or something like that.
That is not, putting that kente cloth on is not enough for me, bruh.
Or doing the nay-nay at the...
Listen, that ain't enough. Because at the end of the day, my brothers and sisters still need higher paying jobs. My nieces and nephews need education that is going to sustain them and help them to be competitive. My grandmother needs affordable health care and physicians that care about her, not just, oh, it's another black person. They just pretending that. All of that needs to be addressed. And it's not going to be addressed if we're looking at superficial things. We need to look at hard issues. And it's nothing wrong, black people, with asking for what you want. It's nothing wrong with everybody else asking. We just feel like, oh, we shouldn't ask. Oh, why should we ask? We should. What do you think lobbyists are? They are asking for what they want. Corporations even asking for what they want.
We got all this money. This is some things we want. What you think about that?
And like you said at the beginning of the podcast, we are such a big influential part of the United States of America. If we tapped into understanding that that influence is, even though we ain't got the money, that influence is money. Influence is money. Influence is capital. And if we tap into our influence and we withhold our influence until we got something that mattered to us as a group, then we can actually make some changes that we can see before we die.
Oh, Lord. You should be a lawyer. I love that passion. Passion is just in there. I'm just sitting here like, just talk to me. I'm just sitting here. I don't got nothing to say. You in a black household, when black mama is talking, you shut up. Shut the hell up and just listen. So I appreciate. I think everything you said was spot on. When you talk about like Ice Cube, I love the fact that he's not somebody where you're looking at him like, oh, he's shucking and jiving. Like Ice Cube that's a real man right there. That's a real black man. I just saw him doing an interview on Chris Cuomo's show, and he was like, look. You could tell he was like, man, I'm tired of this. Like,
I'm not going to keep going back and forth with you.
I'm not here for Trump. I ain't for nobody. You could tell he was not trying to pucker himself up and get himself up for an interview. He like, look, I'm Ice Cube, and this is what I'm doing. And he been doing his way for so long.
Since you've known him.
Successful at it. And I love the fact that you have people like him that are jumping out there and saying, hey, I'm not finna wait on us all to come together. I'm gonna just do something myself.
Somebody gotta start it.
Yeah, somebody gotta start it.
If Jesus waited for everybody.
Yeah, preach.
He said, man, look, 12. That's what I got. Let's go. Let's roll. Cause I'm about to be on crucified soon.
Right.
I ain't got time to be waiting on everybody to understand what I'm trying to do. And that's the whole thing. And I feel like a lot of times we don't understand people's positions, and we judge as a group, and we shouldn't do that. As a black community, if we're not willing to sit down with our brothers and sisters and communicate and have a open dialogue that is not defensive in nature off the bat, but really sit down and have this dialogue to where I understand where you're coming from, you understand where I'm coming from, then you can't judge. And you haven't talked to somebody. You can't judge something you don't understand. Yeah. And we do that a lot. We call everybody coons. We look at the coons. Look at the coons. Yep, we put them on the coon train quick. And it is. It's fucking hilarious. It's hilarious though. Excuse my cuss words, but I do that from time to time. But he said, "Dang,
I ain't got no problem with it. Do your thing."
But we shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Learn to understand a person. Don't just try to judge people. We judge often, and we judge quickly without proper understanding. And I don't think we should.
Amen. So we have another segment.
Yes, we do.
That we'll be ending with. You want to do yours first, or you want me to do mine?
I'll do mine first this time. So, I am like we talked about, words of wisdom. I may say some crazy stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm always going to bring it around to positivity. So with everything going on with this vote and everything that is happening, the polarizingness of the voting culture and everything right now, I think it's important for us to make sure that we maintain our disposition and our mentality, and that we are taking care of our mental health. So I have a few what are they called? Affirmations. I was going to call inspirations. That's not what they're called. A few affirmations that we can repeat to ourselves to keep our minds centered and steady as we are making it on to next week. So the first affirmation that I would like for you guys to say to yourself is, what I need and what I want is important and matters. What I need and what I want is important and it matters. What I need and what I want is important and it matters. I think that's very important. Second one that I have for you guys is it's okay to say no. It is okay to say no.
I know that's something I struggle with in my life. Yeah.
We all do. It is okay to say no.
Yeah.
And I got one more. And the last one that I got for you guys, the last affirmation that I want to drop on y'all before we roll on out is that I choose my happiness above all else. I choose my happiness above all else. I choose my happiness above all else. And those are my affirmations for this week's podcast.
Can you also talk to them like about what an affirmation is?
An affirmation is a statement, a positive statement that a person says to themselves, speaks into their selves in order to cultivate positive, healthy life changes in your life. So that's what an affirmation is. A lot of times, myself, I write them down and I speak them into a mirror. So I speak them into myself, or I have an app that I can record my affirmations and they will play them back with some lovely background music. But it's one thing to think something. It's another thing to hear your voice saying it. So that's what affirmations are.
That's pretty dope. I always love affirmations. I always look at it like a coat. Let me hear me out. Hear me out. I'm a visual person.
Now I'm in a coat.
So when you're talking
excuse that, y'all.
Oh, excuse the noise. Somebody got to turn the engine on. Hold on. Let me see if they drive off.
Well, they simmer down a little bit. It's cool. Okay. They understand.
Can everybody hear me? I don't even know that.
They can hear.
So for me, like when I think about like affirmations, I think about cults and how, the people that are in the cults, they are chanting these messages all day and they continuously say them until they no longer have to speak them. It's already playing in their mind. And so I look at affirmations the same way, but in a positive way is it's putting a new message in your mind.
Religions do it too.
Huh?
Religions do it too.
Yeah.
Like when you say, go ye therefore teach all nations, or when you say, may the Lord watch between me and thee while you're absent one from another, it's something you know. You know what I mean? You create it, it's rote.
But an affirmation like really speaks to your emotional health as well, because sometimes you can feel like you just, for lack of better terms, like I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Right. And you might feel like that.
Right.
But if you can have an affirmation that's playing in your background that talks about, it's okay to say no, or I choose my happiness above anything else. Like those messages will get rid of those negative ones that pop in from time to time.
Yep. You gotta deposit. You have to make deposits. You have to deposit some positivity in there to combat the negativity that could surge up in your mind. Make daily deposits, and that's a way that you can do so.
Okay.
What you got?
So for me, one thing that we'll be doing every week is journaling. I'll give you a little background on that. For me, there was a time in my life where I was very down and going through a lot of things in my life, and I picked up journaling. And journaling really, really helped me to be able to process the things that I was going through and to be able to have healthful and effective conversations with myself. And so journaling is like a form of CBT. When we talk about CBT stands for cognitive behavioral therapy. And the foundation of CBT is it's a way to challenge your negative thought patterns and come up with solutions. And so journaling is a strategy that's used in this theory. And so every week, what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to give you all a journaling prompt to send you off with. I look at it like medicine. This is going to be medicine. Like when you go to the doctor and you're sick and your doctor gives you a prescription, he says, hey, take this prescription, follow the directions, and you'll be well. And so I look at journaling prompts and affirmations as this is your all's medicine for the week.
Yes.
For you all to be healthy. And so your journaling prompt this week is going to be, and I tried to pick it in the vein of this election coming up. You know, when you think about your goals for your people, and this is not just black people. This could be Asian people. This could be Hispanic, Native American,
Whatever your group
European,
is.
whatever your identity says, or whatever group you feel a connection to. What is the small when you think about the goals for your group? What is the smallest change that you can make today to reach that goal? And I want you to write it down. I want you to
I
write down
like
your
that.
group, and I want you to write down what is the smallest change that you can make. Not the biggest change. We're not telling you to go out there and pick up a building and save the world. We're saying what's the smallest change that you can make today to get your people closer to that goal that you have for them. And I want you to write that down, and I want you to really dive into that and figure out what works for you.
And we'll talk about what we wrote down next week.
Oh, we gonna be doing this too?
I'm talking about mine.
Okay. Hey, I journal anyway, so I'll definitely add mine.
Well, it was such a pleasure.
I know.
I cannot wait for next week.
I know. This is so much fun.
You lit. It's lit.
Yes.
I told you. All right, guys. I'm so excited. It was such a wonderful experience. You guys smile through this week. Do not let this get you down. Stay positive. Like our licensed professional has told us, get you some wine on this Tuesday.
Yes.
Get yourself settled, and don't you stress yourself over what is going on. What will be, will be. No reason to stress or fret yourself in the process. We love you, and we'll see you next week.
Next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.